Hello, and welcome to TechBytes.io. In this episode, we're going to walk through automating your Phoenix development environment with Vagrant. So let's see what we're talking about. What is Vagrant? Well, Vagrant is a tool written in Ruby that is used for building automated, easily reproducible development environments. These environments are sandboxed inside of a virtual machine. In this case, in today's episode, that will be within VirtualBox. This makes it easier for us to have parity between our development and production environments. That way you don't run into the "it worked on my machine" situation. So how do you do this? Well, why don't we jump into the command line and find out. Alright, so let's go ahead and stand up a Phoenix development environment with Vagrant. So let's take a look at our Vagrant Box List here. Type up Vagrant Box List, and there you can see we have a list of the boxes that are stored currently on this machine. You can see two of them that we've created with the Phoenix Ubuntu one and the Rails Ubuntu one. So in this one, we're going to use the TechBytes Phoenix Ubuntu box, but let's see, you can see I'm already in the Elixir Phoenix folder. And also, just obviously, since this is we're using Vagrant, these boxes are available out on Atlas on the Vagrant site. In fact, why don't we go ahead and take a look at that. So here we are at Atlas, where the boxes are kept for Vagrant. These are open source and available to anybody to use. You can also contribute by creating a login and creating your own boxes and submitting them here. But if you type in TechBytes and if I went to the right thing here, if you type in TechBytes and search through that, or if you were to search for Ubuntu or Phoenix, these would come up. But the one we're going to do today is the TechBytes Phoenix Ubuntu on this episode. You can see we also have the Rails 5 Ubuntu box available. If you click either of these and follow on to the next page, you can see what the box is built with, as well as all of the requirements or the instructions on how to bring the development environment up on your own. And that's what we're going to walk through today in this episode. So back in our command line, we're going to, we're going to create a Phoenix application. How about that? So inside here, we will type mix phoenix.new, and we will call this trial. How about that? And this will bring up create our Phoenix application, which we're going to add in our Vagrant file to the install dependencies. Yes, so that we're going to add our Vagrant file so we can create a development environment. And this will all be packaged up into one application or into one folder and be able to work from there. Now that our Phoenix framework has finished generating, let's go ahead and cd into our change directory into our framework, into our application. So there you go. You can see there's the framework and the tree for all the components of the application. This is just obviously the basic Phoenix framework here. And so now that I'm inside there, I'm going to Vagrant init, and we're going to say TechBytes/Phoenix Ubuntu. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating the Vagrant file and placing it into the directory of this Phoenix application. And I specified the TechBytes Phoenix Ubuntu server as the server that we're going to use. So now if I do ls, if I look at the directory of the trial application, you can see over here that there is a Vagrant file listed inside here where it wasn't in there before. So let's go ahead and open that up in our text editor. Inside of our text editor, let's open up the Vagrant file. So let's take a look at this real quick. If we scroll up and we look at the top here, you can see that that Vagrant is a Ruby-based tool. And if we look down here, you can see it's very well documented. There are lots of documentation here. It tells you all the different ways to configure it. There's also great documentation on the Vagrant Up site here on Docs. But going through it, if we look here at the config VM box Phoenix Ubuntu, you can see when we did the Vagrant init and specified which Vagrant box we were going to use, you can see that this is what it created, this line inside of our Vagrant file. And what it's doing is it's telling us the program to pull the TechBytes Phoenix Ubuntu application from, of course, the Atlas HashiCorp site if it's not already available on our machine. So what are we going to do now? We're going to do one very small configuration to this Vagrant file just to get this up and running and to show that to get our Phoenix server running. If you scroll down a little bit, we're going to use what's already here what's already provided for us in this Vagrant file. So uncomment out the config VM network line, go down to guest, and let's change guest from 80 to 4000 and host from 880 to 4000, and then make sure you save. So what we just did here is we're allowing our host and our guest machines to talk to each other through the port 4000. When we spin up our machine, when we spin up our application, it's going to go out and be put onto an Ubuntu or a Linux operating system, a Linux VirtualBox on top of our inside of our laptop, desktop, or whatever you're developing in, or if you're playing out in the cloud. So it's going to spin up this machine, and it's going to be on a Linux server. What I'm working on is a Windows 10 laptop, but we want to be able to see our application, and since Phoenix server defaults to localhost 4000, we'll be able to, using this forwarded port, we'll be able to see the application that we're building inside of our browser, going to localhost 4000, and it'll be hosted on the Ubuntu virtual machine. But we'll still be able to develop it here on our Windows 10 box. So let's take a look at that. We're going to, I'm going to go to the command line, we're going to spin this. Alright, in the command line, we're going to, now that we've altered our Vagrant file, we're going to say one simple command. Vagrant Up. And when we type in Vagrant Up, you can see it's bringing up our VirtualBox and bringing up our TechBytes Phoenix Ubuntu. Okay, so now that our VirtualBox has come up, so if you scroll up and look through what through the spinning up of the machine, you can see that it was bringing up the VirtualBox provider and putting the base box or the server, our TechBytes, our OS, our TechBytes Phoenix Ubuntu server on there, and then it was forwarding our ports just as we mentioned and put into our config file. So we scroll down to the bottom here, or go back to an open command line, and if we Vagrant SSH, this will take us into our up and running Ubuntu server. So here we can see our server is up and running, and you can see that I'm in the Ubuntu server. And if we will then CD into Vagrant, now that we're in Vagrant, that is the default file in which your application is stored. So here you can see I just listed what was available inside of that folder, and you can see that we have, this is the Phoenix framework that we had put together, including the Vagrant file. So if we want to bring our application up, we can say mix phoenix.server, and we need to bring up hex, of course, because we have just put this application on here. We'll hit yes to everything. We'll bring everything. We'll compile our application, and once our application is finished compiling, so once our application is finished compiling, you can see we ran into a little bit of a problem, but that was because we didn't set our Postgres, our database. We didn't set our database password. So just hit Control-C a couple times to get out of that. We just wanted to show you that what would happen if you did not set your SQL, your database password prior to. So let's go ahead and do that. So we are going to go back into our text editor. Inside our code editor, we want to go to our tree here and go to config. Click on config, go down to dev exs, and this is our development file here for our saying our development environment for our Phoenix server, or not a Phoenix server, but our Phoenix application. And if we scroll down to the bottom of it, you can see this is where they configure your database. And so our trial repo here using Ecto as the adapt to the database between our Phoenix application and the database. And you can see username and password are Postgres. So we're going to use that same password to attach to our database inside of our Phoenix server. So we'll go back into the command line and set up our PostgreSQL database. So with that, we will sudo into Postgres PSQL. Now you can see we're in 9.5.4, and we are going to work on our password, and our password will be Postgres. Type that in. Of course, you won't be able to see it, and type it in again. If you type in the wrong thing, I like to hit backspace about 1,000 times to make sure I get it right, and now you can see that we've changed our password. So now we will quit. And let's go ahead and create our database with mix ecto create. And notice I'm still operating inside, and we've created the database, but I'm operating inside our shell here, inside of our SSH into our Linux Ubuntu operating system, which is our Phoenix. It has turned into our Phoenix Ubuntu server on our virtual machine. And now we will spin up our application, which is the basic Phoenix, framework, and we're going to spin this up, and we can see that we're getting our connection into localhost 4000. We're compiling our files, and what we can do is when this is up and running, we will go to our browser. Go to any browser you want. I'm going to go into Firefox, and we'll pull up localhost 4000. Inside Firefox, we go to localhost, and we will type 4000, and this is on our Windows 10 machine. And there you can see we have the Phoenix framework all brought up, and it is on a Linux Ubuntu Phoenix server on top of a VirtualBox and a virtual machine. And to show that we can edit and change things in real time, so during, as we do through development on a regular basis, go back into our code editor, and let's go to, web, go to web, and then we will go to templates, we'll go to page, and we'll hit index HTML, and here you can see, we'll go up inside the Jumbotron, and where it says welcome to, and it says name Phoenix, we can change, let's go ahead and change Phoenix. I'm going to change it to techbytes.io. Let's add another exclamation point. Then hit Control Save. Oops, maybe if I was in the right thing. Hit Control Save. And then let's go back to Firefox. And we can, or your browser, hit refresh, and you can see we've changed. It's welcome to techbytes.io. So what happened was we changed it here in our code editor on our machine here on our laptop, and it went to our virtual machine, and it went, which is our Phoenix Ubuntu server that we set up on top of VirtualBox using Vagrant, and we connected via go to the Vagrant file, we connected via these ports 4000 in order for it to come back into our browser, so that we are able to see our changes instantly as we work on them, which allows us for a much better development environment, and allows us, since we would probably be hosting our application on an Ubuntu server, and since I'm developing it on a Windows 10 machine, it allows us to make sure that the application will work on, we won't run into the it worked on my machine syndrome, where it will actually, we will know that it works on the correct operating system and the correct, with the correct configurations. So to finish up, we will go ahead and suspend our machine, but let's get out. So you can see that it was processing and showing the how the app was connecting to us. Now if we hit Control C a couple times, let's kill that server, the Phoenix server, and let's get some more space here, some more landscape. We reset, and you can see we're still inside of our Vagrant machine. What we're going to do is just type exit to get out. So now the connection is closed, and if you wanted to see the status of the machine, you can hit Vagrant status, and it will show you that our VirtualBox is still running. But it also tells you how to bring it to a halt, or how to shut it down. So we can Vagrant Halt, which will shut it down forcefully, or we can suspend, which will shut it down gracefully, which we will do. We can hit Vagrant Suspend, and now our machine is going to going to do just what it says. It's going to suspend, and it's going to shut down. But it will maintain everything that we were working on. If we were to, we can do one other thing. We can hit type in Vagrant Destroy, and it will completely destroy that box, which is perfectly fine. And you won't lose the code that you were working on or anything, because that is hosted on your machine. However, when you go to bring it up again, when you go to work on that application, and you type in Vagrant Up and spin up the next machine, you will need to you'll need to set up your database again. But then once you compile your assets and hit, mix Phoenix server, you'll be up and running, and you will not have lost anything. The only configuration time that will be required is to set up your database and compile your assets, which is nominal. Thanks for joining me this episode, where we created an Elixir and Phoenix development environment with Vagrant. Keep on coding. We'll see you next time on TechBytes.io.